You're about to get a peek into Bat World, the only accredited bat sanctuary on Earth.
Bat World Sanctuary is a accredited sanctuary for bats that can no longer go back to the wild, and we are also a rehabilitation center. It's about 80% of the bats that come in we are able to release back to the wild.
Currently, the sanctuary hosts about 150 fruit bats, as well as 40 insectivorous bats.
Sometimes bats are sealed into a roost accidentally, sometimes on purpose. We end up with orphans that we hand raise and release back to the wild, etc.
Insectivorous bats, the ones you might see swooping around your neighborhood, are often seen as threatening creatures, but the truth is they're largely afraid of you.
They can tell people apart, they can tell strangers, and they can even tell when someone doesn't like them because they won't even come close. In fact, they'll kind of recoil a little bit from people who have a lot of negative feelings about them because they're so sensitive.
Fruit bats in the US have their own share of problems, from being put on display at zoos to people trying to domesticate them as pets.
A lot of accredited zoos will actually happily supply researchers and the pet trade all of their excess stock. Zoos rarely neuter fruit bats, so a lot of times there's a lot of fatalities, there's a lot of orphans that result from bats overpopulating in zoos, and it can be easily rectified by just neutering. If anyone has bought a fruit bat and they realize that they've done the wrong thing, we will take that bat with no questions asked whatsoever because we want to make sure that that bat has the quality of life it deserves.
There's a ton of misinformation circulating about bats, like the belief they're blind. They're not! They can see just fine and use echolocation to bolster their spatial awareness.
Another thing people think about bats is that they all get caught in hair. Now, outside of peekaboo, liking to play with hair, that's not true at all. They're not remotely interested in being in a person's hair.
Case in point, there are many perception challenges all bats have to battle through, like being miscategorized as rodents.
Bats are actually of their own order, which is Chiroptera, which means hand wing. And bats actually fly with their hands. They have a thumb and 4 fingers just like we do.
Another common misconception is that all bats carry rabies, which just isn't true.
In reality, less than 0.1% of all bats in the world will contract rabies. When those bats do get it, they leave their colony to go off and find a place to die quietly. Unfortunately, that's when they're sometimes found by people and by pets. And so that's why we say the last thing you want to do is rescue a bat barehanded.
It seems like a lot of thankless work, but Amanda gets so much joy out of taking care of the bats. What saddens her is that many other people just don't seem to get it.
Getting a bat in that's suffered because of human ignorance, been beaten by a broom till the point where it has teeth that are cracked and wings that are broken and internal injuries, and your only option is to euthanize when all that poor little thing wanted to do is get out of a building, and all it would take would be to open the door. That's very sad because that's an animal that could have lived 25 years and eaten 42 million insects in its life, and instead it's laying there in a crushed little heap because somebody thought it needed to be hit with a broom.
People tend to either run from or attack what scares them. But where did our unjust fear of bats come from? Count Dracula? Batman? It's not a stretch to say these pop culture icons have helped build the false narrative that bats should inspire fright. Amanda's even gone on late-night talk shows to dispel the myths about bats.
Our goal is basically to one day have everyone on the planet see bats for what they really are. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that 1/4 of all mammal species on Earth is a bat. They control so many things about our environment, and they control so many things other animals rely on them for. So if we lose bats, other animals will start to die off, and we won't be far off.
The perceptions working against these little winged warriors may appear tough to transform, but as long as the cave door to Bat World is open, light will continue to be drawn out of the darkness to help us see.